In this video, I'm going to be comparing the All Dogs Go to Heaven franchise to the Peter Rabbit franchise. Peter Rabbit is from Sony Pictures Animation. The first film is, the second film is not. All Dogs Go to Heaven isn't put out by one of the major studios that a lot of people know. I've seen All Dogs Go to Heaven as well as an All Dogs Christmas Carol. I've seen the first Peter Rabbit movie, not the second one. When it comes to the highest score for each franchise, none of the All Dogs movies are fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. The highest score is only a 44% for the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven. In the case of Peter Rabbit, the second movie actually has the highest score of 67%. Then when you look at lowest score for each franchise with All Dogs, the second movie only has a 20%. The case of Peter Rabbit, the first film only has a 63%. Peter Rabbit wins again. And then the average score for Peter Rabbit is 65, whereas for All Dogs Go to Heaven, it's only 32. Then we look at gap between lowest and highest score. Well, you can tell by this point the gap for Peter Rabbit is literally only 4%, very low. Whereas with All Dogs, it's 24%. Peter Rabbit has won every round so far, so it's going to win no matter my personal opinion. But let's look at that now. Which franchise do I prefer? I think that All Dogs Go to Heaven is a good movie. It's certainly a darker, more mature one because you have a main character, Charlie, that at the beginning of the movie is flat out a criminal, thief, loan shark, gangster. Sure, he's not quite as bad as his boss Scarface, but he's clearly not a good guy. And then we see it, Carface stabs Charlie in the back. He's like, no, guys, we're going to cut Charlie Bumpkin off of this because he's outlived his usefulness. We're not going to have him around anymore, so kill him. And thus, Carface tries to kill Charlie, and thus Charlie goes up to heaven. This angel talks to him and tells him every dog is inherently good, but it's hard to believe that you're good. She pulls up this book, and we see all these descriptions of why Charlie's a bad dog. And then, even though Charlie's supposed to stay up there, he's like, no, 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 I don't want to stay up in heaven. I want to go back. I want to get back at Carface for stabbing me in the back and trying to kill me. So he escapes, goes back down to Earth, and then he meets this girl named Anne Marie. And at first, we see that he's a con artist who's taking advantage of her for selfish reasons. He actually lies to her as well because he's like, I'm going to help you get a family. We see that he also steals from these people, it takes their wallet. And then later on, Itchy, Charlie's best friend, is worried that Charlie is starting to actually care about Anne Marie. So he's like, really? Charlie, do you actually care about her? Come on, what are you thinking? So Charlie decides to tell Itchy exactly what he wants to hear. So he's like, yeah, I don't care about her at all. I don't care about that stupid girl. No, I'm going to abandon Anne Marie the first chance I get. She hears this and thus understandably is hurt. Charlie pretty quickly feels regret having said that. You can tell. He's like, wait, Anne Marie, please listen to me. And then Carface kidnaps Anne Marie to try to get at Charlie. Then at the end of the movie, we see the powerfully enough, Charlie actually does something good. He actually risks his life to save Anne Marie. So you get to the end, and the angel is like, Charlie, you can go up to heaven now because you did something selfless. You actually chose to risk your own life to save someone else rather than only caring about yourself. And so Charlie has to say goodbye to Anne Marie, and ooh man, that scene got to me emotionally. I remember watching a movie. I teared up because that scene, it works really well. As I think this movie is quite enjoyable. I like the story that being told here about this dog Charlie who's quite bad at first, but he actually gets redemption, and thus there's actually a happy ending for him. I like the way this movie looks. When it comes to Peter Rabbit, I enjoyed this one. It starts off by establishing there's this rabbit named Peter Rabbit who has several siblings. All of them can talk. They really are not a fan of their neighbor Mr. McGregor, he really doesn't like them. He wants the rabbits out of his garden. He doesn't want them around. But then he dies. So the rabbits at first think that we got no problems now. He's gone. But then one of his relatives, actually, after being fired from his job, ends up at this place out in the country. So he ends up moving in to the house that Mr. McGregor lived in. And so the rabbits don't like him. He doesn't like the rabbits at all either. So he thinks they're just vermin. While you have this lady that lives in a house right by Mr. McGregor's house, she likes Peter Rabbit and his siblings. She cares about them. And then the guy and the lady start spending time together. And so Peter Rabbit, especially, is not a fan of this at all. So he wants to get this guy away, push him out so that he won't be around anymore. But then he and this guy come to an understanding when you get to the end of the movie. I like the way this one looks. I think the story here is quite engaging. When it comes to which franchise I prefer, I would say this is quite an interesting one because I mean these two are definitely different from each other. All Dogs Go to Heaven is definitely a more mature, more serious story, whereas Peter Rabbit is more of a lighthearted story. I think that I'm gonna go with Peter Rabbit. I found that one to be a bit more enjoyable, to be honest. That'll wrap things up for this one.